I think let's hit it.
All right, well, just let me know if you can see this.
Yep, we got you.
See if it'll show up. You got the whole thing
Yes, sir.
Yep, got it.
with the good hands people together there with those nice watches.
There we go.
Listen, for those of you on the call, the most important part of this whole presentation is my email address and my cell phone number. Because again, Liberty Bankers, we're a big player in the final expense space, but compared to some of the other behemoths, we really have to compete on service. Our product is good, our process is good, but we are, face-to-face type communicators. I wish I was there in person. I know a lot of the people on the call are spread out everywhere, but we like to shake hands whenever possible. So make sure that you have. I'm a very good delegator. I pride myself on my responsiveness to emails and calls, and even though I'm on planes a lot, I can still get my text. So make sure you copy down my numbers if you're not looking at the screen. My cell 215-989-9352. That's the best way to get to me. And I have a good team of people. We have a sales support desk. We have 3 other additional multi-product wholesalers. I only handle life insurance. Our wholesalers that are also helping us in the field handle all of our products. And then we have 5 people dedicated in our sales support team that support life insurance only. So again, never hesitate. I know a lot of organizations push their people back through the IMO or the agency. If it's okay with the leadership team, I have no issue whatsoever taking phone calls direct.
That's fantastic.
And
I love it.
yeah, and then just for me, it's like I've been doing this. I got a lot of gray hair. I mentioned last time, still there. 38 years. I've been in the final expense business for 15. I was a $1 million roundtable producer for 3 years, so I've sold. I know what it's like to get hung up on. For those of you, I know most people are doing sales over the phone, but I've been bitten by dogs. I've been chased off by somebody with a shotgun. All that stuff that has happened to insurance agents. I know what it's like to have my biggest case of the year get medically declined or chargebacks. I mean, I've been through it all, and I think that's important too. Even our leadership team, Jeff Sams, our president, he started out in sales, so I think it's important to have people that understand. Yeah, that can't wait until Monday. My commissions need to get paid on time. So I've been through everything that everybody on this phone has been through. So I can sympathize or empathize with the issues that you deal with. So just a little bit about Liberty Bankers. Liberty Bankers Insurance Group, our owner, Brad Phillips, and the Phillips family, they're hands-on. He's probably got about 100 different companies that he manages in Dallas, Texas. We call them Liberty Bankers Insurance Group. That's where the life insurance comes from. But we also do a variety of different products, which may or may not be of interest to you. We do med sup, we do companies, we also have supplemental health. So we have a really good, robust portfolio of products. We know that the more products that are in the house, the less likely the customer is to go to another agent. And we just have kind of been building products around our distribution to help them, firmly secure Liberty Bankers inside of those different households so that we don't lose the business there.
David, we would be interested in having a conversation around MedSup. We have a number of MedSup agents as well.
Okay.
That we work with, so maybe we can have a sidebar another day or whatever. Get us.
That's great. Yep, and even with the med sup comes the hospital indemnity, the cancer, all of the other additional policies. Yep. Those are working their way through approvals, but it's a big part of our business. So, been in business, I think for 26 years now. We got about we're going to cross $4 billion in assets this year. It's just a good company. We're rated A-. We were just recently reaffirmed. So we're a really strong company that focuses the majority of our time. For me, it's final expense. Juvenile policy, which is competitive, but right now it's not on an e-app. That's going to be fixed. And but again, it's a good portfolio for our current distribution. So obviously, I'm going to spend all of my time on our final expense product. That is our baby. Fortunately, with the departures from the final expense space, some of our competitors are no longer competing against us because they're out of business. And interestingly enough, I'll get on my soapbox for a second. we have hired people from Prosperity. We've hired them from Wellaby / Great Western. And the reason that those companies are not in the business any longer is because they didn't price their products appropriately. Whether the price was too low, the commission was too high, the underwriting was too liberal. Our book of business is very profitable to us as it currently stands. I think it's going to be interesting over the next few years to see if anybody else leaves the market in final expense. We've heard rumblings of a few major carriers potentially exiting. And I think it's going to be difficult to enter the market because anyone who enters at this point will have to compete against the carriers that are currently there with their current pricing and commissions. So I don't think anyone's rushing to get into the final expense market, especially even the guaranteed issue market. But there may be further disruption, I think, based upon conversations that I'm having with other wholesalers with some of our competitors. So I would say stay tuned. We're not getting out. I never say never, but in the short term, this book is as profitable as we priced it to be, which is great. So, and again, if anybody has any questions, just hop on. This is just a product map. The only thing you need to know is the only state that we are not currently in is New York. All right, so we are in 49 states. We never will be in New York. You have to be domiciled there, deal with their Department of Insurance. So for us, again, we're in 49 states, and we will never be in New York, which is great.
David, do I need a different contract for Washington, Wyoming?
No, you don't.
Okay.
It's just issued under a different carrier name. You'll see it's Liberty Bankers Capital Life. They have different state requirements. I'm not a state requirement expert, but no, you guys, if you're appointed with us and you have a license there, you're good to go.
Great.
I'd say the bulk of our business is where people retire. And right now, a lot of people getting out of California, getting into Nevada, into Arizona, and of course the East Coast from I would say, Delaware all the way down to Florida. And we're starting to see some of our business sort of trickle into Louisiana, Alabama. People generally like to retire where they can buy pretty much the same house they had, right, for less money, pay less taxes. And a lot of people like to be by water. So since the coastlines are almost gone, now people are really headed to the lakes, which I don't blame them. I like to look at water myself, but that's where we see the bulk of our business is heading now, more towards the middle. It's probably the southeast, but almost getting into the center, more towards the center of the country. So, but the good news is that we are already there.
Hey, David, quick question on
Yep.
appointments. Are you guys just a just-in-time carrier for most states? So
Yeah, we are.
I go, okay, perfect.
Yep.
So I can just
So
pick
it's
up a
good to
license and then write the app, and then you'll appoint me right before the business process.
That's correct. And generally what'll happen is our system is great. If it's not a just-in-time state, we appoint within 24 hours. So you'll be up and running very quickly. If it is a just-in-time state, you could still write it. But what'll happen is as soon as we get the app, we have to run the background check.
Yeah.
And the background check takes about 24 hours to get back. So normally the first case that you write will probably, you may not see it in the portal for 48 hours, and the commissions will follow after. What you should be experiencing, this is not rocket science. It's really pretty straightforward. Is if you're using the e-app or our voice app, you should be able to close the case with the customer, get a point of sale decision. It's either going to be standard, it's either going to be preferred, standard, or modified. And then the next day, if you log into your portal, you'll see the case there, and the commission will flow through within 24 hours. So that's what the experience is supposed to be. If you don't experience that, you need to let me know. Okay. But that's like 90% of the way it processes. And if you're not one of those people who checks it'll be the next day. But again, anybody who has an issue with that is the way the process is designed. I think most carriers should be. Point of sale decision, customer knows what they're going to get. And then you'll be able to see the case in the portal the next day, and the commission gets released. Depending upon how you guys pay, we either pay the top line who may pay the commissions, or if it's a true brokerage situation, the broker will see their commission the next day too.
Perfect. That's
the way it's supposed to work, right? And that's the way generally it does work. So, so we have preferred, standard, and modified. I'm pretty impressed. Again, I don't know, I didn't mention in my intro, but I was with Royal Neighbors for 11 years, a great company, by the way, before I came here, just back in June. I think that our issue limits are very broad, 3,000 to 40. Just as an FYI, we are filed up to 50. We haven't released that yet, but that's in our back pocket when we want to. We're seeing a lot of $40,000 cases coming in these days as funerals get more expensive. I myself have been the executor of two different funerals, and one was my uncle who had no money, and his cremation was about $4,000, so he would have fit within that. And then my father-in-law, who used to be the mayor, fire chief, local 3 electrician in New York City, all this kind of stuff, and his funeral was over $40,000. Now, he's a big Irish guy. I think the repast, with all the alcohol, was about $8,000 anyway. But he wanted the full-blown, flower cart, the stone, the headstone, everything. So I think that that's a good range. Interestingly enough, too, we start at age 18 and we go to age 80. We are 5. I'm trying to get that released as well, but for right now, we're locked into 18 to 80. And I think I may have mentioned this on our previous call. Our average issue age is 45. So we are seeing quite a few younger individuals, whether it's a grandfather buying a policy on a grandson or a son. And our average face amount is about 14 grand, which is high in the final expense space. At my prior carrier, our average issue age was, I think, probably 59, and our average face was 11. And I think part of that is the red footnote down the bottom, in that 65%, currently 65% of the customers who apply to us are getting our preferred rate, which is very competitive. So for those of you that are on the call, our preferred is not a teaser rate. It is attainable. So we go 65 preferred, it's about 20% standard, and the other 15 get our modified. So preferred is a likely outcome for individuals, and our preferred captures, with our current pricing, captures down to about table 4, and it's a good rate. So interesting, again, I've only been here for 6 months. Most carriers, their preferred is between 10 and 12% of their book of business. Ours is very high. So again, it's a good place to take your healthy customers, and even ones that are, slightly unhealthy. But again, if you get to the really, really unhealthy, you'll end up in modified or guaranteed issue with another carrier. Any questions on that? Nicotine and non-nicotine, we still have those too.
Yeah, David, what are the big knockouts? What would you say the big ones? Like if I got somebody who's like a diabetic, or what are the big knockouts that we see that we ought to just pivot right away from Liberty?
Yeah, and I'm sure your team, is well trained. For the most part, any heart or cancer within the past 2 years, ongoing treatment, that's always a tough one. Insulin-dependent diabetics, I'll give a plug for my former company, Royal Neighbors. They are diabetic friendly, Royal Neighbors. A good company to have in your back pocket. And just as another advertisement for my friends, they don't have height and weight. So you can be an insulin-dependent diabetic who's overweight and still get a standard issue with them. That is stuff that we stay clear of, and a lot of companies do.
Yeah.
But 2 years, cancer, heart, ongoing treatment, those are probably good to stay away from with us.
Okay.
All right, just as a general. And again, we have a risk assessment, but I know you got the customer on the phone. You want to walk them through that process and get the sale. You don't want to have to delay it once you have them on the hook. I completely understand that. I think we have a pretty good suite of riders too. We've got the accelerated death benefit, which I think is critical to have. Ours is automatically added. There's no cost to it. It automatically comes with the policies. Some companies force you to select it. I'd encourage everybody to use it, or not use it, but to have it, since it doesn't cost anything. And again, having been through 2 executorships, especially with my father-in-law, it was great to be able to access the death benefit in his policy before he ultimately passed for home health care. we would have just had to use a credit card, at least my mother-in-law would have, until the death benefit came through. So I think that's a good rider. Accidental death and dismemberment. I'm a big proponent of writing individual policies if you can. If you can't, the rider is always the next best option to have it on there. Another interesting fact, the older you get, the less likely it is that you're going to die from an accident, but some people insist on it. I think it's a great way to add it. It's commissionable to the product. And then we have a children and a grandchild rider as well. And we find a lot of our final expense customers, their kids may not be the most responsible people in the world, and the grandparents. I know my grandparents and my parents bought policies on me and my brother and sister. So I think it's a good thing to have, unless you can, again, write an individual policy on those. So I think I might have mentioned this too. We do accept ITIN numbers, right? So that is a relatively big market depending upon where you're getting your leads from, but that is acceptable to us. We do not accept ITINs for agents, though. Trying to get that one changed, but for customers, as long as they have a social security number or an ITIN, we will issue life insurance on them.
I think all of our agents are socials. So
okay, good. Yeah, no, just for the agents. I got that question because we have a lot of agents working in areas that have an influx of individuals from outside the country. And believe it or not, you can get a state insurance license with an ITIN, but for some reason, most companies will not allow you to issue life insurance with that. So,
yeah.
All right.
I'm with you.
I didn't want to spend a ton of time on these, but just to give you guys a little taste for what our riders are. I talked about the accelerated living benefit rider, and I can send this deck over afterwards if you want to read through all of this.
Yeah, that would be helpful, David. Thank you.
Yep. Qualifying event, we go up to 80% of the death benefit. Just as an FYI, so I don't forget, our e-app, I'll save it. I'll save it till I get there, right? So that one's up to 80%. For our children's term, the units come in $5,000 increments. You can get up to 4. What happens is the individual can, they're issuable from 15 days up to age 17, and this is convertible. And then for our grandchild rider, we actually offer a slightly higher amount, which is $7,500. This one can be converted. It's actually, you can't get more than 1 unit. All right. These are the prices. It's $13. It's relatively inexpensive. We find it to be sold quite often. Convertible.
Yeah, like an easy add-on right there.
Yeah, an easy. You're right. And this was issued again 15 days up to age 17. And it's convertible at either age 25 or if the individual gets married, just like the child rider.
Okay.
And these can all be quoted. Again, you can, we have a nice handhold quoting engine. I don't know if your team uses like a multi-carrier quoting tool. We're on every.
We really use Life Center. Integrity's Life Center is what we.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we're on there. So you can run all of the riders on there as well. Yeah, they did a nice job with their Life Centers. This, I think, is just to give you guys an idea. Just so you know, I didn't pick this cell because this is the one that we're the most competitive at. I ask you to test it out yourself with the quoting engines, but this is a 65-year-old male looking for $15,000 of coverage in the state of New Jersey. And you can see Liberty Bankers, our full disclosure, our monthly factor is slightly higher. However, our annual premium is the lowest in this cell. And that's going up against some big competitors like Trans and Mutual of Omaha. So again, I encourage you for healthy individuals, and remember, this is preferred. So I don't know how my friends at Omaha and Transamerica, how likely you are to get preferred with them. But I can tell you with us, there's a 65% likelihood that you are going to be issued preferred with Liberty Bankers. So it is a very competitive rate compared to most. But you'll see if you run the quoting engine where we fall on each cell and each face amount. It's a good rate.
Yeah. Any
questions on that?
I would just say that the rate is well worth the simplicity of the app.
Yeah,
it's worth. Yeah, it's worth taking a look. Now I know Trans has introduced a new product. I haven't had a chance to look at it. Omaha, always a great competitor. And
It
again,
is,
there's a
but
lot of
I'll
great.
tell you, David, their e-app challenge, their new product is interesting, but it's pretty narrow windowed who you're going to fit in their new product. So
Yeah.
you're stuck with their iGo clunky, terrible app process. So
Yeah, and our app is tried and true. We use Agenium, who is also used by Royal Neighbors, also used by SBLI. They have a variety of different customers. That app has been around for about 10 years. They have a new version, which we are not moving to because we had challenges with speed at my former company, but it's really straightforward. For anyone who has never used an Agenium style application, once you get your agent number, we have a sandbox, which I encourage you to use. It's on our portal. You can actually, input a fake case into it and get a feel for the flow. They look very similar. Again, there's not a lot of questions to be asked on there. I don't think anyone on this call is going to have an issue with it if you've ever done a paper or an electronic application before. But I like to at least know what I'm getting myself into before I sit down with the customer or talk to them over the phone. So for us, actually, I think I have a slide up here. So for ways to sell, so we have an e-app and we have a voice app. And with the e-app, it can be done remotely or it can be done face to face. If it's being done face to face, that's pretty straightforward. The customer just e-signs the application when they're in the house on the customer's iPad. If it's remote, we will text a code. It's a 6-digit code, and the customer just has to repeat it back, and that is acceptable to us for the e-app. Very easy. For the voice app, we have
Dave,
a lot
I took
of
one last week, by the way. I tried it out. I took an app last week, the texting. Super easy.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Now, again, sometimes our customers, unfortunately, are challenged with technology. They don't have a smartphone. They don't have an email address. Again, that's my mother. She refuses. She does have she has a cell phone, but she doesn't have texting capabilities. You can't convince her either way. But we also have a voice app. And with the voice app, if you have the customer on the phone, you simply dial in our call center, similar to what Foresters used to have it, Royal Neighbors still has it. And then, a paramedic gets on the phone and actually records and asks all the questions to the customer, and the customer gives us a voice signature. So that is easy. Now, again, remember, you're at the mercy of a call center. Hold times are never longer than a minute. But if you're making phone calls at Sunday night at 11 p.m., the call center is closed. So the e-app is certainly the most effective way to take the application. And again, it's a point of sale decision. So the customer is going to know before they get off the phone whether or not they're covered. We do have Social Security billing as well, which is great. Encourage everybody to use Social Security billing. It just really helps with persistency. We know when the money hits the bank account, we take the money out. If you can identify that, it's critical. We swung our persistency like 40%, 40, for customers that are on Social Security billing versus those that are not. So that's critically important.
So, Dave, will you say that one more time? Sorry.
Yep. When we instituted Social Security billing, our customers that opted for it are 40% less likely to lapse their policies. Because again, remember, we are hitting their bank account before they pay their cell phone, before they buy their lottery tickets, before everything. It's critically important to be the first one.
David, tell me on the initial issuance then. If I'm choosing can I choose a separate billing? I can make my policy effective today or tomorrow, but then I go to Social Security billing. Will it draft for today and then go to Social Security billing after that?
That's correct. Yeah, you can. And we go out 30 days. So yeah, I would say, let's put a premium payment in and then let's hit the next Social Security payment. That's a smart way to approach it.
Can I ask a question? How do the customers typically respond to that as an option?
Well, in my experience, because I still do write a few policies, they all know the day that Social Security hits. Listen, I know when 100%. My paycheck hits, right? I'm looking to make sure that it hits. I've never had anyone say no, and I've never had anyone even question it. Again, some people probably do want to have control when the money comes out, but I've never had anyone reject it.
Okay.
So, I guess there
Yeah.
could be some resistance to it, but I don't like, hey, listen, if it's all right with you, we'd like to draft, we'd like to put you on social security billing so that we know that we can draft this premium payment. After you finish.
I tell them that most clients like it. I'm like, oh, well, most clients do this. Everybody kind of wants to do what
Yeah.
everybody else does. So it seems to
That's a
work.
good, that's a good way to sell it. Not like, well, I think you're going to spend all your money before
Right.
Yeah.
draft your premium payment, which is never a good way to approach it. But that's a good question.
Thank you.
Dave, thank you. I'll be prepared for it if I ever get asked it again. That's something my mother would ask me. All right, so these are options that will be. We have an app that you can download to your phone. Now, I will say in complete, disclosure, a lot of this is meant for face-to-face agents, but it will be available for those of you that are doing sales over the phone as well. With the rate check, and again, if it's already available through Integrity's, Life Center, which is great. We do have a full RX lookup, and it will tell you whether or not the potential medication is a decline or not. Again, I would be careful with the RX lookups because some of the medications that are listed in there have multiple purposes. For instance, my wife has restless leg syndrome, and she takes a medication because she flies a lot like I do that is really meant for people, I believe, that have Parkinson's disease because it eliminates some of the nerve shaking. So she's completely healthy and issuable, but if you just looked up the drug on the RX check, it would say that she would be a decline. You can always let me know if you run into one of those situations, but it's a good pre-indicator if you happen to know the customer is on a certain medication, whether or not they will be a decline. The rate check is just simply going to tell you what the rate is going to be. You can get that right from the Integrity Center. The underwriting check is a neat tool which will be available to even individuals selling over the phone in the first quarter. And what that does is the customer can give you their driver's license right now face to face, and you can take a picture of the front and back, and it will actually tell you with a 95% accuracy whether or not the person is preferred, standard, or modified. Now, obviously, if you're not sitting with the customer, you need to be able to get that driver's license information in a different format. And in the first quarter of 2025, they'll either be able to send you a photo or at least give you the driver's license number because we drive it off the code that's on the back. It's a barcode. But the ability when Mrs. Smith says, I'm really not sure if I want to go through the process, to be able to tell her, listen, if you just give me your driver's license information, I can run it through the system and tell you, within 30 seconds, whether or not you're preferred, standard, or you're even, modified, or even a decline. Because why bother going through the Liberty Bankers application if the person's going to be declined, and then you have to fill out another application for your guaranteed issue carrier. So that is on its way. It's used very widely for agents that are face-to-face. And the beauty of it is that with the driver's license, we can pre-fill some of the application. So we know the address, we know their name, we know their date of birth. All of that comes from the driver's license or state ID records. But making that available to the wide variety of individuals we have that sell remotely is critical for us. And it helps us too. I'm on my soapbox again. We get a lot of cases that are not taken. And the reason they're not taken is because the customer did not get the offer that they thought they were going to get. And every carrier wants to lower not takens. It costs us the same amount of money for a not taken as it does for a taken. So the more we can drive down not takens by getting people to understand what the offer is going to look like before they go through the complete application, just makes all of our business that much more profitable. Any questions on that? So look for that in Q1 of 2025. But again, the RX and the rate check, I've never actually seen the Integrity Life Center, they may already have that on there, but it again, for a lot of the people on the call today, they're just hearing for the first time. It's not like you're just hearing for the first time the person's medical condition that you have with them. So you may not, you may not have the time to check and see. So you have to be a good field underwriter just to know those medications or conditions that will result in a decline. So for right now, through the end of the year, we may extend this, no guarantees, but we do have an incentive. So it's $50 per issued and paid case, minimum of 3 cases, maximum of 40. So our maximum payout is capped at $2,000. That's supposed to say first premium must be drafted, not drafter, before January, and then we'll pay the bonuses out. So it's just an incentive to get people up and running with us quickly. I think most people on the call today will certainly be writing at least 3 cases before the end of the year. And it's just good to get people to sort of kick the tires and try us out. We're seeing tremendous growth, which is great. Great for me, great for the company. And we got our foot on the gas, and we're just going to keep pushing away. We are also one of the few companies that still runs an incentive trip. This year, we are going to Prague. I know it's kind of tight. We don't prorate, so it'll be tough to make this trip unless you really knock it out of the park. But next year, we are going to Hawaii. Normally, we're at a 5-star resort. It's you and a guest of your choice. We pay for everything. And I think it's relatively easy to qualify. We need about 100,000, or we need 100,000 of final expense business, which counts at 2 points, which will take you to 200,000 points. But they're just absolutely beautiful trips. We have no interest in going into the bonus world yet. Our owner and our president like the incentive trips. They like to mingle with our top IMOs and our top producers. So we're going to keep doing trips until something else better comes along. But a lot of our competitors have gotten out of the trip world, and we just think that it's real important to get people together and share ideas. Any questions on that?
No, very cool.
Oh,
I'm guessing after the end of the year, you'll see the Hawaii, your new incentive trip for next year.
Yeah, we'll definitely know before, within the next few weeks. They have it narrowed down to 2 resorts, and but they're nice trips. I mean, a lot of times the trips are only like 3 days. Ours are 5 days and 4 nights.
Love it.
We have one meeting that runs an hour and a half. That's it. Everything else is either planned activities or free time. So it's not like you're in meetings from 8 in the morning until 5 o'clock. It's very relaxing. And for those who sell multiple products, even better, because it makes it a little bit easier to be able to leverage some of, Medicare supplement and products like that.
Cool.
And that's all I got. Anybody on the phone have a question?
Paul, you were playing with the app. You want to do you have anything around the app, Paul, that you want to ask David about that would help our folks here on the actual?
No, I mean, he already lit. I mean, it really is straightforward. I mean, if you can read English, then you get the app. So,
all right,
it's pretty easy. Like, it really will tell you to log it. You start off as the agent. You put in your birthday, put in the last 4 of your social. It identifies your producer number, and then it says very clearly, copy and paste this into the next line, and it tells you how to copy and paste that. You drop that in, and then you're good to go. So it's pretty straightforward.
Yep. And I'll reiterate, I am the exceptions and special arrangements person. So anything that you could possibly run into, just come to me on it. Occasionally you'll have, I'm not saying this is anybody on the phone, but it's like, all right, somebody had a bankruptcy 5 years ago, and maybe they get caught up in we're very, very liberal as far as bringing people on board. Sometimes, contracting may say no, and then I get to say yes. So if you run into any of those types of issues, somebody has an old vector from one of those companies that vectors everybody. I think the bulk of your people are already appointed, but if there's any of those kinds of issues, I encourage you to come directly to me. I will gladly get involved and handle it. Every organization is important to us, and we don't have the biggest name. I can't fall back on Marlin Perkins for those of you that are old enough to remember Marlin Perkins, and We don't have a skyscraper in a major city like Transamerica, but we do have really, really good people that understand the business, and we pride ourselves on our service. So you're not just a number, you're a customer, and a good customer of ours. So I will gladly take any calls or questions or texts. Come to me however you need to come to me, and we'll take care of it.
Love it.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
David. We appreciate it.
David, just
Alrighty.
real quick, typically appointments, it's 24 to 48 hours you mentioned for appointments.
Yeah, and if you need any,
Contracts, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, it's generally 24 hours. Again, if you say, David, this guy's writing a case on Friday, I need him expedited. I talk to the head of our contracting area every day, so just let me know, get me involved.